Have you ever wondered what the most breathtaking islands in the Philippines really look like? Beyond the crowded beaches and familiar travel postcards, there is still another side of this country, quieter, wilder, and almost untouched. Here, long sandbars stretch across shallow turquoise water. Remote islands rise from the sea with powder-white beaches and hidden coves. Lagoons glow in deep shades of blue and green, surrounded by limestone cliffs and tropical forest. Beneath the surface, coral reefs, sea turtles, whale sharks, and countless marine creatures move through some of the richest waters in Southeast Asia. From the vanishing sandbars of Kalanggaman and Manjuyod to the remote beauty of Balabac, the clear waters of Sugba Lagoon. Each place reveals a different side of the Philippines. This is not only a tropical paradise, it is a world shaped by tides, islands, reefs, and the endless power of the ocean. In this journey, we will step into some of the most beautiful and unforgettable places in the Philippines, where nature still feels raw, peaceful, and almost impossible to believe. Amid the deep blue waters of the Camotes Sea in the Philippines, about 7.5 miles from the town of Palompon, Kalanggaman emerges like a slender white brushstroke across the vast ocean. Its name derived from the Cebuano word langgam, meaning bird, because when viewed from above, the entire island resembles a giant bird with its wings spread wide over turquoise waters that seem to stretch endlessly toward the horizon. Measuring only about 2,460 feet in length, this tiny island is home to one of the Philippines' most remarkable natural wonders: powdery white sandbars extending hundreds of yards into the sea. Yet what makes them extraordinary is that they almost never retain the same shape, as every gust of wind and every rise and fall of the tide quietly redraws the island's contours, making Kalanggaman feel like a living entity slowly changing form with the breath of the ocean. When the tide recedes to its lowest level, the twin sandbars at either end of the island emerge in full view, creating the image of a white bird spreading its wings across the open sea. And intriguingly, the place named after a bird rarely hosts resident birds at all, because its limited size and lack of large tree canopies make Kalanggaman feel more like a masterpiece sculpted by nature than a true habitat for wildlife. Surrounding these fragile ribbons of sand are layers of water that shift from pale turquoise to deep sapphire blue, revealing coral reefs and carefully protected marine ecosystems beneath the surface. While local authorities limit visitation to roughly 500 guests per day and require visitors to carry their trash back to the mainland as part of an ongoing effort to protect this island from the fate that mass tourism has brought to so many tropical paradises around the world. And as the sun slowly sinks beyond the horizon, leaving only the rhythmic sound of waves washing against the white shore and the whisper of wind moving through scattered coconut palms, Kalanggaman leaves behind a feeling that is difficult to describe, as though you have stepped into a world from another time, where nature is still quietly writing its own story, untouched by the interruptions of modern life. On the northern coast of Carabao Island, in the Kalanggaman Archipelago of Palawan, Barracuda Lake lies hidden among towering limestone cliffs, rising hundreds of feet above the water. Like a world isolated from the surrounding sea and revealed only to those willing to cross a narrow wooden walkway carved into the rock. From the moment its calm surface appears between walls of stone draped in tropical vegetation, the lake feels like an ancient secret preserved by nature for thousands of years, completely removed from the familiar rhythm of the outside world. Today, Barracuda Lake is regarded as one of the strangest and most extraordinary diving experiences on Earth. Yet its fame does not come from the barracuda that gave it its name, but from the unusual properties of its waters that seem to challenge human intuition. Beneath the still surface, fresh water flowing from the limestone formations meets seawater entering through submerged fissures, creating a rare, layered environment where temperature and salinity behave in ways found in very few places on the planet. As divers descend deeper into the lake, they begin to experience its famous thermocline phenomenon, where water temperatures can shift from approximately 82 degrees Fahrenheit to more than 104 degrees Fahrenheit within just a few feet, creating the sensation of swimming through entirely different worlds. Even more remarkable is the fact that this is one of the few places on Earth where warm water rests above colder water, leading many visitors to describe the feeling as though their bodies have been divided into two separate sensations while moving through invisible layers. These sudden transitions affect more than just the skin, because they also bend and distort the light passing through the water, producing strange visual ripples that make the space around you seem as though it is quietly shifting beneath the surface. Below these layered waters lies a landscape that feels almost extraterrestrial, where ancient limestone cliffs millions of years old continue plunging beneath the lake like underwater skyscrapers, sculpted by time rather than by human hands. At the base of those submerged walls, the lake floor is covered with fine sand and soft silt that resembles gelatin in texture, where even the slightest movement can send pale clouds drifting slowly through the crystal-clear water. Unlike many of the Philippines' famous dive sites that are filled with colorful fish and vibrant coral reefs, Barracuda Lake leaves its impression through an almost complete simplicity, where rock, water, and light become the central characters of the entire scene. It is this profound stillness that makes every sound feel more distinct, from the gentle rise of air bubbles toward the surface to the slow and steady breathing of a diver drifting through the silence. Although sightings of barracuda are rare today, a few fortunate divers occasionally encounter a solitary fish gliding through the lake's layered waters, like a lingering ghost from the story that first gave this place its name. Within this carefully protected environment, the water often reaches extraordinary levels of clarity, allowing ancient rock formations to appear in sharp detail, like sculptures patiently carved by time over millions of years. And when the final rays of sunlight pass through the water before fading into the deeper shadows below, Barracuda Lake leaves behind the feeling that it is more than a lake, but a place where water, stone, and time continue to follow rules that the rest of the world has never fully understood. Off the coast of Batangas, just a few hours from the fast-paced rhythm of Manila, Sombrero Island rises from the sea like a symbol sculpted by nature over millions of years. Its distinctive shape so closely resembling a traditional Mexican wide-brimmed hat that it inspired the island's very name. Viewed from a distance, the island's elevated limestone peak forms the crown of the hat, while a ring of white sand encircling its base creates the brim, giving the entire island the appearance of a giant work of art floating quietly upon the blue waters. Yet what makes Sombrero truly remarkable is not only its unusual silhouette, but also the way the tides continually reshape its appearance, creating a spectacle that exists for only a brief window of time each day. When the tide retreats, a narrow stretch of fine white sand suddenly emerges and connects to the island like a secret pathway across the sea, allowing visitors to walk above the blue water before the route disappears completely beneath the returning tide. Surrounding the island are exceptionally clear waters, whose colors shift from pale turquoise to brilliant blue and then deepen into darker shades with increasing depth, creating the impression that the ocean is blending its own palette beneath the tropical sun. Beneath those waters lies a thriving coral ecosystem that has helped establish Sombrero as one of Batangas' most respected diving destinations, where schools of tropical fish move among the reefs like living brushstrokes across an underwater canvas. Above the shoreline, weathered limestone cliffs continue telling the story of the island's ancient geological origins, while patches of green vegetation cling to the rocky slopes, creating a striking contrast between rugged stone and enduring life. It is this contrast that makes Sombrero feel like a small-scale testament to nature's resilience, a place where life quietly takes root and flourishes even on surfaces that seem least capable of sustaining it. And as the sun slowly sinks toward the horizon, casting a golden glow across the stone hat rising from the Philippine Sea, Sombrero Island leaves behind the feeling of a world suspended beyond time, where ocean, limestone, and light continue shaping a masterpiece that is never truly finished. At the southernmost tip of Palawan, where the Philippines seems to dissolve into the horizon and only about 31 miles of sea separate it from Malaysia, the Balabac Archipelago emerges like a world beyond the routes most travelers ever take. Scattered across these remote waters are more than 30 islands, a place often described as the Philippines' last paradise, as though time itself had overlooked this corner of the world, while modern life moved on without it. It is this very isolation that has allowed Balabac to preserve a level of natural purity that many tropical destinations lost long ago. White sandbars, such as Queen Helen and Angela Sandbar, stretch across the sea like hidden pathways, revealing themselves only when the tides grant access to the world they conceal. In some areas, entire islands exist only at low tide, before disappearing completely beneath the rising sea. That constant transformation makes every journey through Balabac feel like a treasure hunt, with the ocean quietly redrawing its own map from one tide to the next. When the tide falls to its lowest point, and only a thin sheet of water remains across the sand, the entire seascape transforms into a giant mirror reflecting the tropical sky above. In those fleeting moments, the boundary between sea and sky nearly disappears, creating the sensation that each step is suspended in midair rather than planted firmly on the earth. That dreamlike landscape becomes even more extraordinary as the water shifts through brilliant shades of bright turquoise and deep sapphire blue, while vast coconut groves lining the islands create the unmistakable horizon that defines Balabac. Beyond completing the archipelago's tropical beauty, those coconut forests have long served as a vital source of life for local communities across generations. Yet Balabac is not defined solely by what appears above the surface, because beneath its crystal-clear waters lie pristine coral reefs and expansive seagrass meadows where the rare dugong continues to survive. Across these remote islands, the Balabac mouse deer, known locally as the pilandoc, still quietly endures. Like a living reminder of the natural world this archipelago has managed to protect through the passage of time. Reaching Balabac still requires hours of travel by road, followed by a journey across the sea. And perhaps it is that very remoteness that has preserved its rare sense of authenticity, allowing Balabac to remain like one of the final chapters of the earth that nature is still writing before the modern world can turn the page. On Siargao Island in the Philippines, the journey to Sugba Lagoon begins with a boat ride weaving through the nearly 900-acre Del Carmen mangrove forest, one of the largest protected mangrove ecosystems in the country. Along these narrow waterways, tangled roots rise from the water like ancient guardians silently watching over the entrance, making each mile of the journey feel as though you are venturing deeper into a world few have ever seen. Beyond this green labyrinth, Sugba Lagoon suddenly reveals itself in the heart of Siargao like a hidden paradise, a place nature has spent centuries shielding from hurried eyes and the noise of the modern world. Its brilliant turquoise waters stretch beneath the tropical sky with such clarity that the entire lagoon resembles a giant mirror, reflecting clouds, sunlight, and every contour of the landscape surrounding it. Encircling the lagoon are towering limestone cliffs draped in lush primary vegetation, forming a dramatic natural wall sculpted by millions of years of geological change. These rugged formations give Sugba Lagoon the appearance of a secluded fortress, a place where the outside world seems to fade away and leave only the quiet presence of nature behind. Amid this vast expanse of water, a solitary two-story wooden house stands alone, small against the scale of the landscape, yet striking enough to feel like a refuge for travelers exploring a forgotten corner of the world. Rather than disrupting the lagoon's untouched beauty, the simple structure enhances its sense of isolation, adding a quiet touch of humanity to an environment still overwhelmingly shaped by nature. Sheltered by the surrounding cliffs, the waters within the lagoon remain remarkably calm and are rarely disturbed by the larger swells rolling in from the open sea. Yet what makes Sugba Lagoon one of the most iconic images of the Philippines is not simply the rarity of its scenery, but the feeling it leaves with those who experience it firsthand. In a world that grows louder and more connected with each passing year, Sugba Lagoon endures as a rare sanctuary of stillness, where nature does not seek to impress but quietly reminds visitors of a peace many thought had long disappeared.
The silence draws us closer still. Unspoken words we see through.
Off the coast of Baez City in Negros Oriental, a white sandbar stretching nearly 4.3 miles lies quietly in the Visayan Sea, forming a destination often called the Maldives of the Philippines, where the ocean seems to conceal a piece of land that appears only during certain moments of the day.
The river deep only for us.
When the tide retreats and reveals a brilliant ribbon of sand reaching toward the horizon, Manjuyod creates the strange sensation that the ground no longer belongs to the mainland, but is temporarily borrowing space from the sea itself.
Or show by me, cleanse me.
Yet this landscape never remains the same for long, because only a few hours later, the water silently returns and gradually erases every trace of what had emerged, until an entire white island, nearly 4.3 miles long, is swallowed by the ocean without a sign. It is this constant transformation that gives Manjuyod its identity, a place where the same location can wear two completely different faces within a single day, as though the tides are telling new stories across the same stretch of sea. The waters here are renowned for their remarkable clarity and for shades of color that shift from pale turquoise to sky blue before deepening into richer tones with increasing depth, creating a seascape that changes continuously beneath the tropical sun. On calm days, the water becomes so transparent that the shadows of boats can be seen on the sandy bottom below, creating the illusion that they are suspended in midair rather than floating on the surface. Amid this vast expanse, simple wooden stilt houses stand atop slender posts like tiny outposts in the middle of the ocean, and when the tide rises, they appear to float directly above the water. Though they offer neither air conditioning nor the luxury amenities found in many famous island resorts, these modest structures are frequently fully booked, because visitors come to Manjuyod not for indulgence, but for the rare experience of living within an almost untouched seascape. During peak travel seasons, small boats operated by local fishermen make their way to the sandbar carrying freshly caught seafood and coconuts, creating a simple floating market that exists for only a few fleeting hours before the tides once again reshape the landscape. Farther offshore, pods of dolphins occasionally surface in the golden light of early morning, while the surrounding shallow waters continue to support a thriving marine ecosystem that existed long before Manjuyod became known to travelers. And as the sun slowly descends over the Visayan Sea, casting a warm glow across the sandbar as it gradually disappears beneath the returning tide, Manjuyod leaves behind the feeling that everything here exists only for a moment, made beautiful precisely because it belongs not to people, but to the timeless rhythm of the ocean. Just a 30-minute boat ride from Boracay, Carabao Island feels like a glimpse into the Philippines of decades past, where white sand beaches, small fishing villages, and an unhurried pace of life remain largely untouched beside one of Asia's most famous tourist destinations. This contrast is what makes the island so remarkable, because only a short distance from Boracay's crowded shores, visitors can step into a quieter world where nature still seems to dictate the rhythm of everyday life. Along the coastline, stretches of white sand meet waters that shift from pale turquoise to deep blue, creating a tranquil scene so vast and seamless that the horizon often appears to dissolve into the sea itself. Yet beyond this peaceful beauty lies a more rugged shoreline, where limestone cliffs, sculpted by millions of years of waves and weather, have given rise to a network of natural sea caves opening directly to the ocean. The most famous of these is Cathedral Cave, a sea cavern with a broad entrance and soaring stone ceilings that resemble the vaults of an ancient cathedral, where light and shadow constantly change with the movement of the sun and the tides. To venture deeper into this hidden space, visitors must cross bamboo walkways and wooden planks built by local residents and fastened to steep limestone walls, creating an experience that is both thrilling and captivating amid a landscape that remains remarkably untouched. Not far from the cave are Carabao's well-known cliff jumping sites, where natural ledges and man-made platforms extend over the sea at varying heights, drawing adventurous travelers eager to plunge into the crystal-clear waters below. Yet what lingers in memory long after the excitement of those leaps has faded is not the rush itself, but the sense of calm that settles over the island once the echoes of laughter disappear into the ocean breeze. In the coastal villages, life still revolves around fishing, coconut groves, and daily routines passed down through generations, creating a sense of authenticity that has become increasingly rare in many of the world's popular destinations. And as the sun slowly sinks into the western horizon, casting a golden glow across the cliffs, beaches, and tranquil waters, Carabao Island leaves behind the feeling of a place where time has chosen to move more slowly, allowing nature and people to continue sharing the same simple rhythm of life. Off the coast of Kulasi in Antique Province, Mararison Island rises from the Sulu Sea like a small green landmass, sculpted by wind and waves over time, where rolling grass-covered hills, rather than luxury resorts, have become the defining image and spirit of the island. Known as one of the least commercialized trekking destinations in the Philippines, Mararison draws visitors not with crowded beaches, but with narrow trails tracing the island's ridgelines, where every step reveals another expanse of sky and seemingly endless ocean. From the island's highest vantage points, the horizon stretches across an almost uninterrupted 360-degree panorama, making sea and sky appear to merge into one, while the undulating hills below resemble giant waves frozen in place at the edge of the ocean. That landscape transforms with the seasons like a living canvas, as the hills take on a soothing turquoise-green hue during the rainy months, before turning a brilliant golden yellow beneath the sun of the dry season, giving the same island an entirely different character throughout the year. Across these wind-swept slopes exists a rare biological phenomenon, where wild pitcher plants, species more commonly associated with humid rainforests and highland environments, grow in surprising abundance on this small tropical island. Beneath the cliffs and grassy ridges lies the pristine white sand of Manjuyod Sandbar and a coastline bordered by clear waters where healthy coral reefs continue to thrive, creating a tranquil marine world far removed from many of the Philippines' better-known beach destinations. Yet what makes Mararison truly memorable is not its scenery alone, but the way its people continue to maintain a close relationship with the sea, living according to a rhythm that seems untouched by the accelerating pace of the modern world. In the small coastal villages, daily life still revolves around fishing, wooden boats, and the changing seasons of the sea. While many visitors are welcomed by local children singing traditional songs with a warmth and sincerity that feel increasingly rare. The combination of untouched landscapes, unusual natural features, and simple cultural traditions gives Mararison the feeling of a Philippines from decades past, when people lived closer to nature and remained more deeply connected to the environment around them. And as the setting sun bathes the hills descending into the Sulu Sea in shades of gold, Mararison Island leaves behind the impression of a place where wind, water, and time are still quietly working together to continue a story that has never been in a hurry to move on.